watching all those. I am excited to have you all here for the membership acquisition and renewal strategy session. I'm Christy Fornay. I'm the Director of Annual Giving and Membership at the University of Missouri. So welcome. I want to do a quick plug for the membership cabin. It's a monthly group that meets. We just talk about best practices for membership, just share ideas, trouble we're having. It's just a really great group, so I encourage any of you to join, see me or Ethan. We're happy to talk you through that and get you added to the group. So just a quick reminder, we'll have 2 presenters today. Please hold your questions for the end of both of their sessions. This is being recorded, so you can watch it later if you'd like. I'm going to introduce Lisa Banks first. She is from the Oregon State Alumni Association and recently took the role of Director of Membership at Oregon State. Before joining the Alumni Association, she spent over 20 years in marketing, focusing on product, brand, and channel management for companies like T-Mobile and Motorola. Lisa is a Beaver believer. I couldn't wait to say that. I was pumped. Rolled right off the tongue. A Beaver believer through and through, who graduated from Oregon State in 2001 and is happy to be back home supporting her university. Outside of work, she likes to enjoy all Oregon has to offer, spending time with her husband and 2 sons outdoors at the beach, skiing and whitewater rafting. So let's welcome Lisa.
Hi all, it's so nice to be here with you. All right, so I am going to be talking about applying marketing truths to membership. And we will jump in because Marie has tons of good stuff for you as well. So I had 22 years in marketing. You might find this is a little misbalanced. I am very fresh to membership and alumni relations. My guess is there's probably very few people in this room that have less experience than me. So when Christy reached out to me to speak, I was like, wait, are you sure you need me? Okay, sure, why not? Jump in. I haven't been to CAMMP, so it'll be a good experience. So one thing that's interesting is I have found so many similarities, and I think everyone in this room at least should consider themselves marketers, because we all do a lot of marketing in membership, even though it might not be specifically in your title. One thing I've found now that I'm 1 year in is there are so many things that carry over from my marketing career into my career in membership now. And I think, do people know what are 2 majors? So I worked for T-Mobile for a long time in marketing, and there's 2 things that carriers are specifically always looking at. And does anybody know what those 2 things are? Okay, acquisition and churn. So churn is the opposite, kind of uglier side of retention, is the people you lose. And so I think those 2 terms are pretty familiar in our world as well. All right, so I thought I'd distill this into 4 key principles so you can have something kind of snackable to take home with you. And these are things that I found ring true both back in my marketing world and then here today doing membership. So those 4 things, and I am going to quiz at the end, I'm not kidding. Product, clarity, momentum, and feedback. All right, so your product is king, queen, everything. My husband, an example is my husband has this car, a 1967 Mustang, and it is very impractical. It is expensive to maintain. It can get you from A to B, but not necessarily reliably. So is it the best car in the world to buy if you're really trying to get somewhere? No, but would you trade me for it? Possibly. So that gets to what a product is. So I had a quiz my favorite marketing course. We had a test every 2 weeks. And my professor put the same question on every single exam. And it was a weird question at first. You're like, what? This is weird. And then by the end, when it was like always on every test, you're like, if I get this wrong, is he gonna fail me? It was, what is a product? And it's like, well, I don't know. It was, and the answer was very distinctive. It was a complex bundle of satisfactions. Because a product's not necessarily a thing, and you might think, well, we're not selling a product, like I'm phone, but you're selling all kinds of things that come with the association of membership. So product is so much more complex than just the thing. There's all kinds of facets to it. It can mean anything. And a good example, I look at, like, I wear an Apple Watch versus a Rolex. A Rolex is going to be thousands and thousands of dollars more. Which is more functional? Probably the Apple Watch, but there's all kinds of reasons people would spend the money for a Rolex. So it's the thing, like, yeah, they both tell time, but the meaning behind it is completely different. And I will tell you, having worked on a lot of big brands, I would absolutely kill to have the affinity that we have. We're working with something so magical. To have somebody that attached and emotionally engaged in what we're doing is something like most brands would just absolutely love. And coming back to product, I used to work with Frito-Lay, and they know a thing or two about brands. They built a few big ones. And they had one of their brand experts come in and gave us a presentation. And he had this big, kind of all of these circles, tons of circles. And it went all kinds of different things that are associated with the brand. But the very core of all of it was their product. They were like, if you don't have good product, you don't really have anything. So think about, what is your product? And product can be all kinds of things. It can be the emotion, but what is that? And is it valuable to your customer? All right, this is one of my favorites. Clear is better than clever. I think a lot of times, especially in marketing, people get too close to things. So if, let's say a good example is, I used to work for a company too called Oh Boy, Oh Gordo. It's weird, does anybody know that brand? Okay, there's a couple. So, but not everybody here knows it. And so you might not know what they make or what the product is, and it's beef jerky. And 20 years ago or 30 years ago, beef jerky was a little more obscure. It's become more national, but it was kind of a Northwest thing for a while, more prominent there. So a lot of people, when it came out 100 years ago, didn't know what beef jerky was. They certainly didn't know what boiled birdo, because you don't hear that and think, oh yeah, that's beef jerky, unless you say it. So the CEO of the company, who was the founder, would always say, I never, ever, ever want to see my logo lock up without beef jerky included. Because even though for those of us that work there, we're like, of course, Birdo's beef jerky, like who wouldn't know that? Well, most people don't know that. So just think about how you talk about things. Like if you're calling it the super diamond platinum tier, that might be meaningful to you, but are you being clear in your language of what that means? Okay, one of my things about that is ask and listen. So these two things are somewhat tied, but one of the probably most powerful pieces of marketing is what people tell you and then using their language back to them. So we have our own way that we talk about our business and how we think about it, but we are probably too close to it, and we don't always necessarily think about it the same way that our alumni do. So I like to ask questions. I like to look at customer feedback. Our CEO at T-Mobile would listen in on not all, but a good portion of the people that would call in to care and have problems. So we could kind of get a feel of, okay, what's going on? Like, what are people saying? What's the feedback that's coming in? What are people's pain points and frustrations, and how are they articulating those so that you can counter them? But it goes to everything, marketing surveys, any of that where you can get really good feedback. And then listen, and then use their language back. How are they talking about membership? How are they talking about benefits? It simplifies it, and it uses it in a way that then when they hear it back, it's going to be much more impactful for them. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things. Maybe you've seen this before, but being in the first year of membership, I don't know if everybody here remembers their first year of membership, but it was hard. I felt like, I'd love to say I walked in and I just like crushed it. It was a hard year, just being totally transparent. And part of it was, I took over from somebody who'd been doing this for 20 years. She's fabulous, she's still there. But it's like the car's going down 60 miles an hour and trying to keep the wheels on. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to break anything. And so one of my favorite things I just always tell myself is don't walk in a circle. And part of that is just the balance. So if you, let's say your right leg is all being analytical, so I'm gonna look at my numbers and I'm going to do a strategy and I'm going to go through all of the pieces I got to CAMP in detail, and then you keep going and just thinking about things, you're gonna go in a circle. So the left side is you're just gonna keep moving. So, oh my God, I got 1,000 good ideas at CAMP. I am going to go and just execute all these things. So you do the same thing, you're stepping, you're stepping, you're stepping. And you're going to actually probably have a hot mess of a business. So sometimes, like, some people are more comfortable acting, some people are more comfortable in that space where they're analyzing, and especially I think being new, it's so easy, like, oh, I just want to analyze before I do anything, I don't want to break it. But it's that little bit, so balancing analytics and motion, so doing something. So we're all doing stuff because the business moves so fast, but it's that balance, so just remember to keep a little bit between the two and keep it balanced. And so in practice, what did this mean this year? So I took some of these things and applied them as well as I could. I very much so improved our messaging, especially through simplification and clarification, streamlining, so that we had very inconsistent messaging across different communication points, so making sure all that was super clean and crisp. We made it ridiculously hard to buy a membership. You had to click through like 4 things. So I'm like, what is this? Why are we making it hard? It should be as easy as possible. So we moved everything up so it was just a one click, and anywhere you went where we were talking about membership, you could buy one. So just some kind of simple things. I did a member survey this year, which was so insightful to be able to learn more about our members. And those who wrote things that were negative, I actually personally wrote them to try and understand better. And we had some people rejoin from that, so that was good. And then we have, this is funny, we have a whole AI analytics suite that our foundation was using, but our alumni association didn't even really know about it. And so I asked the foundation, like, why aren't we included? And they were like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, how much is it gonna cost us? And they're like, nothing, because we already have a contract. I'm like, okay, sign me up. So we are now part of all of that. They didn't even have membership data in their data set, but they have access to all of our CRM, and so now they do, and they're running predictive models for us. So lots of progress on that front. All right, and that is it, because Marie has tons of really good tangible examples, which I do not have, but I do have my quiz. So who has one of the 4 areas? Okay, awesome. Product first. Awesome, yes. You guys are smart and you're paying attention, especially for the morning session, which I know a lot of people had fun last night. And, okay, number 3. You guys are too quiet, come on. Okay, momentum, awesome. And one more. You guys are great. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm gonna hand it back over to Christy.
All right, thank you. So Marie Boyd is up next. She is the marketing manager at the Texas Exes, the official alumni association for the University of Texas. In this role, she oversees the association's membership and annual giving projects. She leads the execution of marketing campaigns in these areas across digital, email, and direct mail channels. Her role encompasses end-to-end campaign development, including audience segmentation, strategy, content creation, art direction, project management, and campaign analysis. When not in the office, you can find her playing shows around Austin, Texas, with her experimental band and collaborative project with her husband. You should ask her about it, it's pretty cool.
All right, thank you so much. I also want to say it's also my first time at CAMP, so I'm pretty excited to be here and also to get to present, so it's really exciting. Let me go ahead and get this figured out over here, so. This. our official slogan, pretty fun. So I have a bunch of slides. I'm going to try not to talk too much and just have them sort of like a little bit of background. I'm going to start with a little bit more sort of like an overview of the strategies that we employ, and then have a look at some examples of campaigns that I hope will illustrate a little bit what we're doing at the Texas Access. So let me get started over here. So as we look at the big picture, there are several foundational pillars guiding our approach to successful membership acquisition, retention, and renewal. I think what I want to mention first is the importance of schedule and consistency. So for us, that means maintaining a reliable communication cadence that helps build trust with our audience, i.e. our alumni, and ensures that we stay top of mind, and that's during their time on campus and then also later in life. To support this consistency, we have a pretty secure foundation of automations in place. So that's email, direct mail. Another important thing for our strategy is also amplifying the big moments. So I'm talking about milestones here, like receiving a class ring, graduation, celebrating graduation anniversaries, or recognizing standout alumni through events such as our awards, honoring those who achieved exceptional accomplishments. So we have our OTEX awards, Distinguished Alumnus Awards, or alumni who have founded and guided successful businesses. Really at the base of all that is data quality. Clean, accurate data enables you to make smart decisions and target messaging. We're honestly pretty lucky to have a great CRM up and running, and I have to credit all the people before me who had like a lot to do with that. And that's really super helpful because these are tools and resources that you're gonna need. Like the data that you work with is gonna be your best friend, basically. And finally, and I can't say this enough because I think that's honestly what a lot of marketers do, and I think it's really your sort of success strategy, is testing, testing, testing. We're testing literally everything that we do. So whether that's subject lines or send times or messaging or design approach, or maybe whether a campaign performs better in the fall, or maybe in the spring, or an audience engages on social media on a particular subject, but maybe not another. Testing is really key to find out what works. And it's worth also keeping in mind that what might work for one audience segment might not work at all for another. To give you a little bit of a sense of scale of our operations, we have a total alumni population of over 600,000 alumni, and a strong membership base. So we have more than 120,000 members last time I counted. Just last year, we also celebrated a pretty major milestone for us. We reached 100,000 Texas Access Life members. I will talk more about Life membership in just a little bit because it's kind of like the backbone of our membership program. Each year, we welcome approximately 24,000 new members to the fold. Of those, about 62% come from our renewal and recovery strategy that I mentioned. And that includes auto-renew as well. So these renewal and recovery efforts are automated. So that means we have like a whole like email automation in place. So that's something that just percolates in the background. We don't even have to think about it, and I highly recommend that for anybody. And also direct mail, which is also sent out in a very streamlined kind of manner. I'm going to show you a little bit here. So that's like basically we send it at 90 days out, 60 days out, on the day or around the day of cancellation or when their membership actually expires. And then we have like 30 days after about 30 days after it expires, 60 days later. And then with direct mail, it's a little less, but we have the same sort of idea. Like 90 days out, we tell them, hey, your membership's about to expire, 60 days before, and then sort of right after expiration. So these are kind of the automations that we have in place. That's basically, obviously it's a lot of work to get that into place to start with, but once you have that, it's really great to have that in the background and just chugging along, working for you. Again, it's like 62% of our memberships coming that way. But let's talk acquisition a little bit. So I want to say one thing, that is like when we think about conversion, and especially in our industry, it's really important to see it sort of as a lifetime project. So really what this is about is like building meaningful relationships with your audience. And that's kind of like the best way to do that is just have like I mentioned earlier, schedule consistency. So kind of have like regular touch points. And that means over a member's entire journey. So for our members, it's literally their entire life. So obviously we all know short-term ROI is important, but our focus at the Texas X is also very much on lifetime value. So really the long-term impact and engagement that will ultimately sustain our association in the long run. Many of our alumni may not join right away. It could take 2 years, it could take 4 years, 20, maybe even 50 years. But by nurturing these relationships over time and consistently checking in, reminding them of what we do and their connection to their alma mater, they will basically, their relationship will grow. And there might be plenty of reasons why they can't join, they don't want to join, but they will basically join. They will join when they're actually ready. And it's more than that. Like, in fact, membership is also a great indicator for the commitment to give back, because 65% of people who give to UT are also members of the Texas X's, and that'll tell you a little something. Let me talk about these marketing touch points a little bit. Essentially, a big part of what this is building brand equity, right? So since we're independent from the university, I think for us that's particularly important, because it's sort of like, do people know exactly what we're doing for them, who we are, in relation to the university? They might not, but we keep that as an important strategy on our part to make sure that people do know that. So we're building our own brand, basically. And for us, this starts before even the first day of class. I mean, we reach out to students, we have CAMMP Texas, programs like that. So, and that's like one of the big pillars too, is like we have a student membership program, which I also highly recommend. So in the data that I have about that, it's pretty important. We have analyzed 62,000 recent graduates, and it turns out that the student membership is like a really important indicator of how likely they are going to be to join as a full member once they graduate. So actually, people that were former student members join at a rate of 37%, which is more than 3 times higher than the 11% conversion rate that we see for those who were never student members. So that's kind of a big deal. Also, the higher the level of student membership is, and you can see the levels of membership right there, is also a higher indicator of how engaged they can be as alumni, once they graduate. And then later we focus on important moments, obviously, once they graduate. So at graduation, obviously, that's one of those big moments that I mentioned. We have a popular grad offer for new grads, which provides a 40% discount on life membership, or 30% if they choose a payment plan. And the next key milestones, we're looking at 1 year out, 5 year out, post-graduation, and then reunion years, like 10 years after graduation, 30 years, etc. And then our acquisition, like our regular acquisition campaigns, start when they're about like age 30 or so. So at this stage, we start segmenting into groups such as lapsed members or engaged audiences, people that were never members, even if they would join for the first time. And just to illustrate the point here with the student member levels. So basically we have the name life in those student member levels already. So once they actually join, you can see here, once they graduate, we have the word life already. Like they already heard about us. They know what life membership is. And it's basically like a great way to already like sort of prime them for this. And I will say that, obviously life membership in Texas X is a sort of a storied tradition. Like people, especially whose parents or grandparents already went to UT, they know what life membership is all about. It's like a great tradition. And when it's time to actually sign up and they have had this life member, for your life membership as a student member, basically they can also apply like those membership dues towards their actual life membership. So they can save even more. They can basically start as students already to pay it off, basically. Okay, but let's talk about life membership here a little bit more. So it's kind of a unique value proposition. I think obviously it comes, with a wide array of great member benefits, and that's like kind of a given. But it's also a kind of like great way to give back to UT, give back to their alma mater, and pay it forward for future generations, which does matter for a lot of people. So it's not for nothing that we call it the gift that keeps on giving, basically. So what does that mean? Basically what this means is that 90% of life member dues go into a permanent endowment fund. And that fund powers many of our efforts. So those are like all the kinds of programs that we have that powers advocacy on behalf of UT. it powers all these things and basically, pays it forward. So, Longhorns that can attend university later, all the programs that we do for alumni to champion them around the world and give back. So, essentially what it does, it's an investment. So, it's an investment for the university, it's an investment for the Alumni Association, but also, like I said, for future students, but also for life members themselves, because basically what we're doing behind the scenes with this endowment fund is we're basically protecting the value of this degree that people have, worked pretty hard to get there. And this is really like a fantastic value proposition, and I have to say we're pretty lucky that this has been existing for quite a long time and the endowment had time to grow. And this, you can see here, that's also the life member kit, but I know a lot of you have that kind of stuff as well. I do want to look at a few examples. So this is some of the acquisition campaigns that we're having here. Again, there's a lot of testing going on, so we've spent a lot of years testing these things, and I work with Summer and Jamie, they're fantastic people. They just obviously tested all this stuff already, and we came to a lot of conclusions about this. So one thing that people really love is a little bit of fun and games. So this is like a mailer that we had for our lapsed audience last year. No, actually it was age 30 plus, so it's kind of a certain wealth level and engaged alumni. So people who had some sort of contact already and showed interest in the university and in the Alumni Association. So this is going to be basically like a little coloring page. This year we're doing a rebus puzzle. And then the last year or 2 years ago, we had a crossword puzzle. So people can then go online and they'll be also prompted to join and they can find the answers there. Another thing that works really well are freebies. So, we have here like personalized address labels. And you can also see like emails that we have, everything's always personalized. So that makes it really easy to establish a connection as well. And something about these freebies too, it's just like that's kind of like a marketing concept too, that it's just sort of a strategy. It's like when you get something for free in the mail, not everybody I'm sure, but a lot of people will also feel like a little bit like they should also give something back. So that's always like a great way to get people to engage a little bit more with you. Let me see here. Okay, so this is our grad offer mailer. This is the grad offer that I mentioned earlier. So this is going to be basically a graduation. The new grads, they get this offer in the mail, and their parents as well. So we see here what we have. There's a lot of variable printing. We have a flexible payment option, as I mentioned. There's no down payment, no interest, so that's really great. People can like start paying their like membership off, and then like when they're maybe at a point in their life where they have other financial priorities, they don't have the funds or something, they can just take a break. They could pick it up, 5 years later, and they're still there. There's no they don't get penalized for like letting it lay around there. So that's like a really great way. And we also often include, at this point, I think for almost all mailers, QR codes. So like the more tech-savvy people can just go ahead and just scan and then land right on the landing page that we want them to land on. Also here you can see that's the Great Texas Exit. That's our event that we have at graduation. So we're like in a great spot right across the street from the stadium, so people like before commencement, people can pop over, they can get a drink, we give them like freebies, they can sign up right there for their membership if they want to, and basically just have a good time, and they usually bring their parents, so it's like a really fun afternoon. And then obviously we amplify these kinds of events on all the channels, so this is something that performs really well on social media, as you can see, and we have like ambassadors who are really like happy to jump in and sort of help us out with that as well. And as you can see, this campaign performs really well too. Like this year this is for May, and we also run in August and December. But yet here for May, we had more than 1,300 new life members join and hit like our goal. We're at 130% goal in terms of revenue. But it's not always like the pretty designs that perform really well, and that goes back to what I said earlier about like you gotta be testing a lot. You gotta see like what performs, well for one audience. Maybe an audience just never reacts to whatever you send out, and your designers are working hard to make like a really nice design, and it looks so cute and so pretty, and they throw it in the trash, or maybe they like it, but they still don't want to join. So that's not necessarily something that works for everybody, unfortunately. And I have a hard time telling my designers that, to be honest. Sometimes I'm like, it went pretty well. So, But, so sometimes what actually does work is something just more like an invoice look. And I know probably some of you know that already, like sometimes it's just this really sort of like direct invoicey kind of letter that comes in the mail. We have like a remit on there, we have step-by-step instructions for people because maybe they have an old email address they might not even remember anymore because they joined, 10 years down the road, they're like, I don't know what email address I used back in the day, but they may be interested, so we make it super easy. The tone is very transactional, and it's kind of like, it mentions the investment they already made. Also, again, we have here all these personalizations. Like we speak to them directly, we say exactly how much, they already paid, how much they still have to pay. And I just sort of like showing them that, why don't you pick this back up? And, it's a great time to reconnect, and again, with the QR code. And emails, same thing, it's all personalized. We have those same step-by-step instructions. And we've been running this campaign for a few years now, and it performs really, really well. And fingers crossed, it'll perform really well this year again, because this was like really great this year. Like we were like 384% to goal in terms of revenue, and we had a lot of people. So I want to mention these are lapsed life members, so that means that they did obviously at some point already decide to join as life members. So that's obviously like a great, advantage to have somebody already like convince them at some point that this is like a great, value proposition. And that could be simple things that maybe just their card expired, and so some of the people that are on a payment plan, they just not gonna they might not notice, oops, my payment didn't go through for a few months. So we tell them, and it's actually more of like, they get that invoice. Like again, it's like kind of an invoice, you look, they get it, they're like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice. So that's like a great way of having that structured. And again, like it's been working really well. We tested a lot with that, and it keeps going well. So we're doing a very similar mailer this year, and we'll see if that still performs. And with that, that's already the end. Thank you so much. This is our mascot. Obviously, you probably know it. And yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you enjoyed these examples, and we're ready for questions, I guess.
Sorry, microphone trouble. Thank you. Does anybody have questions?
Okay. Question for each of you, actually. So these are, I'm sorry, my voice is not good. We sang a lot last time. And so when you did your member survey, or was it a member survey, or did you do all alumni? Did you target? What did you do? You know what you did on that? I don't know.
I love your tell, that's so funny. We did segment it, so we did current members, and then we segmented it by type of membership. We also did a recent grad segment that have a free membership, and then I tried to target non-members, and that was much more difficult to get responses. So we went pretty broad with it.
Offer a prize, and do you know your return rate?
Oh, I don't know the return rate off my top of my head. I know for the no, I did not offer a prize, but for our members, we had a really good response. I would say probably like 20, well, it's good to me for a survey, 20% wrote us back. The non-member was really bad. Yeah, it was very small.
Marie, when you do your forecasting for each campaign, who does your forecasting? Is that something you do? Do you have a system, an algorithm? Like, how do you do your forecasting?
Yeah. So, I mean, we typically have the big budgeting season, and then we all basically in marketing, we just sit down and look at the numbers, and we see what we want to do. Like, do we want to keep it the same? Obviously, you want to, add a little growth, but we're also trying to stay realistic. But yeah, we typically just sort of set ourselves a goal. Like if we had the feeling that maybe something was off that year, let's say a campaign underperformed and we're like, okay, but what did the last, I don't know, 5 years look like? Is it like a fluke? Is it just weird this year? Is it, I don't know, whatever's going on, like, the Longhorns didn't play that well or something? I mean, this will all affect it. But if we feel, relatively confident, then we'll just, set ourselves a little bit higher goal. If something really outperformed, then we'll also look, I mean, we usually try to just sort of make assumptions and see if we can reproduce these things. Or if we have reason to believe that next year is gonna be much better, then sure. Or obviously if leadership says we really need to do some more, but thankfully our membership is up, so we can sort of, we're in that privileged position to be able to say, well, we're doing really well, let's set ourselves a little bit of a higher goal next year, but let's not, also let's not, because, if once you like go there and say like, oh yeah, we wanted like 5% more or something, let's make it even bigger next year, it's not sure that we can actually achieve it, so we'll try to be a little bit realistic in terms of planning.
Members do you have?
We have about 20,000 members. But a good chunk of those are free grads. So that's about 7,000 of that 20. So we're fairly small, maybe big, depends on, we're not big compared to her. Okay.
I have a question for Marie. What system do you use for your renewal and reactivation automation?
So we use Marketing Cloud. So we have thankfully a data whiz on the team who's like really great. I mean, I build emails too, but like we have somebody who he pulls the data, and then we honestly all sit together, like also when we're planning, and that would be the kind of person who says like, okay, let's look at the automations, and then we like decide what we want to do. And sometimes, I mean, I try to also go in and update those. I will say that's one thing to mention if you have something like that in place. I'd recommend having like, I don't know, maybe once a year you look in and go through all of them to make sure that's still relevant. Like if anything, data goes like a little bit weird, you're like, why does it look like that? Or you mentioned a specific academic year, which we had actually last year, I think for like maybe a recurring gift journey or something, maybe it was membership actually, and it was mentioning, oh, by the way, this academic year, and I realized that was like, 3 years ago, so you want to go in and like update those kinds of things. But yeah, Marketing Cloud is really useful for that, and then plus it's like you can link it to the Salesforce data if you have Salesforce, and that works really well.
We're switching to Salesforce and Marketing Cloud supposedly this year, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I have quite a few questions from my team back home, but I'm gonna try to summarize it. Affiliate memberships for both of you, do you have affiliate memberships? And what's been working when you have sold those memberships? And kind of give me an idea of that. And then I'm curious about your community benefits. What are your highest rated membership benefits? And part two of that is, what has your community been asking for?
So I'm not sure what type of membership that is.
So it's someone affiliated with, so for example, we have an affiliate membership with Stanford, but you can just be somebody in the community. Anyone, all of you could buy an affiliate membership to Stanford.
Yes.
So do you have that?
Yes, sorry, I wasn't sure with the term. Yes, you do not have to be an alumnus or an alumni of Oregon State to be a member, but we don't sell it as a different type or category. It's all, membership is just open to anyone. So yes, we do. I just wasn't familiar. So we don't separate it. And then in terms of benefits, from my member survey, the top ones that came through, we have a very good magazine, I think, in general. And part of it, I think, is people respond with what they're familiar with as well. So it could be skewed a little bit. They get the magazine, so they're very familiar with it. They love our calendar, which I don't necessarily love because it's really expensive. But they love the calendar. And then we have Nike, Julia talked about this, but we have the Nike and Columbia and Adidas shopping. We're somewhat lucky because those are actually very close to us. Most of our alumni are in Portland, and that's where those stores are. So those are extremely popular with our membership.
Yeah, so we do, same, we have basically, we call it for alumni and fans. So we have, like, if you're just a fan or you like, what, you know, go and see the Longhorns play or something, you can also be a member, or sometimes somebody wants to add their spouse or something. So that's all a go for us. And what was the other? Oh, member benefits. I think one of the really popular ones is actually the library access to UT. I think that's pretty popular with, you know, probably recent graduates, because, you know, they slowly, you know, they still sort of like to have that benefit at hand. We had to, like, I think we had like 2 or 3 different like digital archives, and one of them we had to let go this year, so we had to communicate a little bit, but that's a really popular one. And then I think, I'm not exactly sure how they all rank, but I do know that we also have, like, we partner with Von Lane, which is that bus, sort of like a luxury bus service or whatever. So I think those, like, sort of more tangible benefits. But I do know that the library access kind of ranks relatively high.
I actually had a question. So, you mentioned the 4 clicks to get to a membership, but being relatively new to your roles, coming from the private sector, what did you go in and be like, why the hell are they doing it this way? Or, you know what I mean?
You mean like what was the process?
No, like what did you find shocking, or maybe like why are they doing it this way, or like why is this method used, or something along those lines?
Yes, for sure. So that was definitely one of them. Having worked at really big companies, they were maybe a little more sophisticated in the e-commerce side of it. And so that was a big one. Like, why would you make it so hard? It was really hard to find information. The other big one, I've actually found this. So I consulted for Oregon State. That's how I ended up there. And when I was a consultant, I was asked to look at different things that were opportunities. And one of the big ones was the website, our website. So we're rolled into our foundation. That happened about 6 years ago. But we didn't have any kind of alumni designation on top. You couldn't find our stuff. And so I was like, this is really bad. And then I looked at all the Google Analytics, and the top things people were looking for out of our foundation site, a lot of them were alumni. It was almost impossible to find membership. It was buried in a menu of like 50 things. So my big thing first was we need to make alumni easy to find. This is what people are coming to this site to look for. So that was a big aha. So I think discoverability, that was a big one for me that I looked at. And then just a lot of the processes felt a little, I don't want to say archaic, manual. Like a lot of it had been repeated for so many years that I think the teams just were really used to it, and it was working, and they do a great job. But there were a lot of things I thought could be streamlined. So I was looking for opportunity of, because I don't have that much time, and none of us have that much time, but where can I use my time better and not do all these manual processes? So those were kind of the main things that I looked at first.
I don't know if you had a follow-up. Marie, I have a question with some of your analytics and like some of your testing. One of the areas in our renewal segmentation that we're a little worried to try to test are our golden grads, just because I feel like their loyalty is like, this is what I do every year. We've tried to solicit and ask them to upgrade, and they're like, no, I'm going to renew every year at this price. So I'm always a little nervous every time when we're testing all the other areas. Is this something that everybody, is this just a me issue and like just rip the Band-Aid off and try something? But I'm also like, they are loyal and I don't want to mess with that renewal rate. Have you, with some of your analytics, because yours is a lot bigger of a base than ours, have you seen any testing with either that, or at least I'm going to connect with you with a lot of student and new grads. But is that something that you've seen at all, or do you just kind of let them do what they'd like to do?
So I'm pretty sure that what we do with the renewal, like, I mean, I wasn't there yet when that was kind of implemented, so I'm not exactly sure, but I can certainly find out and share with you like what exactly the audience is there. I will say when we look at who, like our response rates for all the acquisition campaigns, et cetera, we're doing, it's, I think, probably generally relatively popular with sort of like the middle-aged folks, you know, maybe in their like late 30s, early 40s, I think, and then also a little bit like empty nesters. So I feel like the sort of, I think the last thing I looked at was like the average age was sort of like 57 or something. So still working, you know, and having like enough funds to also be sort of reacting to the messaging. I'm not sure that, yeah, I'm not sure that really old folks are like super interested. Like if they haven't, you know, by then basically they're like, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna do this or that. Or like, you know, do the annual membership or something like that. But yeah, I will definitely find out for you though. That's a good question.
Oh, can I just want to follow up? Can you tell me the price?
Can you repeat the question?
She asked, please.
Or, sorry.
Oh, so yeah, so the price of our, so we have basically annual memberships are like $60, and that's gonna be regardless of if you're an alumni or a fan, whatever. That's basically just the level. And we do have a recent graduate level, so those are gonna be like basically, I guess at that point you do have to be a graduate, so those are gonna be different. So we'll have like life membership, it'll be $1,000, and then you have $800 for the recent grads. They basically have 20% off, and I think like the annual. Wait a minute, I'll make things up though. We have the $200. Okay, I'm confused. I better look this up. Cause now I'm like, yeah, we have like these different levels. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll let you answer this question.
Okay. That's funny, our pricing is extremely similar, but we don't differentiate pricing between the types. So they are just, same thing, we call them alumni and friends, so they can join at the 60 annual, 1,000 life. It's all the same. There's nothing to designate a separate type or price.
I think I remember now. So the 200 is I think that's the 4-year membership. So we have that for somebody who's not willing to go all the way in, but still sort of, you know, wants to stay connected for a few years. And annual is gonna be the 6. We do have a monthly option for $5, and I mean, we don't really want people to do that one, obviously. But they will sometimes do that because like one of the member benefits is to go to our member-only tailgates. And so if they bring like their family or something, we're like, you know, look, if you're a member, you get to bring one person for free. So if you have like family of 6 there, then, you know, you can count how many members you need to bring everybody in. So maybe they just do it for a month or something.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. And thank them. All right, so up next we have our final chance to visit with the sponsors. So that will take place in the Great Lakes Room on the 4th floor of Palmer Commons. Just a reminder that we just want to show our appreciation for them for being here. And also the drawings will take place at 11:50, and you must be present to win. So good luck to you all. All right, thanks everyone.